What is happening, everybody? Good morning and welcome. Tuesday training episode 16. 16 of these things we've knocked out week after week. We're here every Tuesday at 9 a.m. for your viewing pleasure. Our goal on Tuesday training is to spotlight some of the experts in the industry, trainers, people that can give you actionable content that you can take out and put in your business today. And that's why on that frame you see the phrase take action now, because that's what this show is all about. We want to bring you tools that you can immediately take out into your business. We've got an awesome guest today. I'm super excited to bring this dude on. But first, we have some news. So check this out. I posted this in the group earlier this week. If you're out there in the Medicare space, you may have heard that Medicare expanded their dental coverage. Well, not really. If you take a look at this article, and again, I did post it in the group, it's basically going to tell you that Medicare expanded the coverage when it becomes medically necessary for certain other procedures. For example, if you cruise down here a little bit, they'll lay it out, and they basically say that, hey, we expanded the coverage so that in the event that you need dental or oral examination as part of a comprehensive workup, prior renal organ transplant, or maybe if you need reconstruction of your dental ridge for surgical removal of a tumor, or maybe you need wiring or immobilization of your teeth in connection with a jaw fracture or extraction of teeth to prepare the jaw for radiation treatment, neoplastic disease, for chemotherapy, cancer, things like that. They will cover those things as long as they're integrated, with your medical providers. And it's kind of interesting because while they will absolutely remove all of your teeth for jawbone cancer treatment, well, they're not going to replace to put them all back in your head when they're done. So if you hear people out there like, hey, Medicare expanded their dental coverage and stuff, don't be fooled. They didn't really expand their dental coverage. They added just a few areas where when you're in big trouble and you need some major other treatments and the teeth are basically in the way of getting that treatment done properly, they'll cover that type of dental treatment. So when your customers are out there, if you're out there in the Medicare space and they're saying, I heard Medicare covered, now you know they're not really covering it. Other thing also in Medicare news, check this out. You may have seen this, just came out actually yesterday, as I remember. I read a lot of Kaiser Family Foundation. This is actually from Recycle Intelligence, which is another good healthcare and tech news source. But they are talking about the provider payment cuts that are coming to Medicare. I've spoken about this quite a bit. They've been sequestered for a while. They've been holding back these cuts. But starting January 1st, we are looking at a 4.5% cut to Medicare physician fee schedule. Now, what that means is that the doctors that accept original Medicare, this doesn't include Medicare Advantage plans. This doesn't include private insurance. This is specifically doctors, clinics, providers that are all accepting original Medicare. Well, they're looking at reducing their reimbursement rate by 4.5%. That's a pretty big chunk of change for a doctor, especially when you're looking at volume, right? If you have a doctor that's doing a lot of business out there in the Medicare space. So there's a lot of healthcare providers that are banding together, trying to reverse that, or maybe get them to delay it a little further. But from what I'm seeing, they're not backing down. I'm pretty much going to tell you that it's guaranteed that 4.5% cut is going to come January 1st, and doctors are going to be earning less on Medicare, original Medicare. So what does that mean? Well, it means probably more doctors, providers, clinics are going to start accepting more Medicare Advantage plans. So if it's not already growing fast, well, it's going to keep growing fast. And one more quick piece of news. You probably saw Joe pop this out earlier, but in the P&C world, United Property and Casualty Insurance Company has announced that it's leaving several states next year. They've got about 36,000 policyholders in Louisiana alone, which is where I pulled this release. It was from the Louisiana Department of Insurance. So starting January 23, you got about 36,000 people in Louisiana that are basically, it looks like they're going to be without home insurance. So maybe a good state to go, drum up some leads in and get some business out there. So I'm not sure what's going on in the P&C world where all these companies are exiting the business in different states. Don't ask me. I'm not the P&C guy. I can't even spell P&C. I'm your Medicare life and health guy. But I want to make sure that, if it's pertinent news, that we try to put it out there for you and you guys are aware. So there's a few items for you real quick. and then we will keep this show moving with our guest. Our guest that's coming on today, man, I met him. Oh, where did I meet? Oh, I met him online first and foremost. I met him virtually through all the different groups. The Six Figure Medicare Summit was a group, or Medicare Six Figure Medicare Agent Group was a group that I see him in constantly. But he is an expert in the industry. He's an author, number one. The guy wrote a book. He co-authored a book. And I'll probably butcher the name, but it's basically how to effectively sell Medicare supplement and final expense products to seniors. He's extremely knowledgeable about the business. He is a business owner himself as well as an agent. He owns two companies. He owns a company called Lead Heroes, which helps you with telemarketed leads. Excellent leads. One of my other good friends, Christian Brindle, swears by him. He uses them all the time. I have other agents that are using them out in the Medicare space and love them. And he also runs a company called Hire Heroes, which is basically a virtual assistant company where you can contract some of his VAs, whether it be maybe an hourly rate, whatever it might be. You can come up with that, and he can bring people to work for you. And from what I understand, it's been pretty damn effective. But the gentleman's name is Glen Shelton. He's an awesome dude. I got to meet him in Utah earlier this year. Let's get him up here and see what's happening with him. What's going on, my friend?
Dude, Tony, that was probably just as good of an introduction as you gave me in person at the summit, man. I appreciate that. Thank you. And
Well, all right.
you didn't butcher the book title at all either, by the way. It is
Okay.
how to qualify, present, and sell final expense and
Qualify,
Medicare
present, and sell.
supplements
That's
to
it.
seniors. Yes.
That's it. And it's a good book too. I have it holding up my coffee table because it's got a Wappy Jaw leg on it, and it does a fantastic job. I have to
Hey,
tell you, you got to get this book.
300 pages, you guys. So I mean, any sort of space you need to fill, you can just kind of slot that thing in. It's
Actually, I'm being
perfect.
facetious. I have read it, and it is a fantastic book. It's spot on. There's a lot of great points that you bring into it, and I love specifically with the title, how to qualify and present these solutions to seniors. So, great book, great book. When
Yeah.
did you write that?
So, in 2015, I started Lead Heroes, and very quickly I realized that, being successful with any type of marketing program, direct mail, telemarketed leads, internet leads, the training behind it is so crucial. Again, that's kind of why we see the typical IMO structure that we see today, right? Where one entity is providing leads, training, uh, and they're contracting, right? Because that's how a lot of agents need that help. So I kind of did it backwards, right? I'm an independent lead provider because I wanted to allow agents to have a resource where they didn't have to move contracts. We're just here to provide you marketing. You can write business with whoever you want. Well, that was great, but then I realized there's a lot of agents who just they didn't understand what they were doing. Maybe they were just saying some things wrong. So we collaborated with over 100 different insurance agents who were already in the field successfully writing business to create that book. So it's not just, my point of view or the person I co-authored the book with, Justin Billage, another great Medicare agent. We came together and surveyed. It was actually several hundred agents, but then we just kind of took the top 35 responses and included it in the book. So yeah, check it out. It's on Amazon, you guys. You can search my name, Glen Shelton, or How to Qualify, Present, and Sell Final Expense Medicare Supplements to Seniors.
Yeah, no problem. We'll make sure and get a link to the book in the comments of this
Yeah,
video towards the end of it too. So,
that'd be awesome.
so I'll make sure that they're added on there. What since then you wrote a book, right? You're doing your thing. You're
Yeah.
running Lead Heroes. What's going on in Glenn Shelton's world? Like, what's driven you to create this other new venture that you now have?
Again, it's kind of the demand and really the need that I'm seeing from my perspective. Helping agents with phone calls. A lot of people act like that's going away at some point. I don't see that happening, especially in the senior market. I think phone calls are a necessary evil, even if you don't like them. But I think there's so much more that an average agent or agency owner needs help with, and that a virtual assistant can really conquer. And that's really what's driving the business today is, besides phone calls, what else can we help you with? What other low revenue generating task are you or your team spending their time on, that potentially we can come in and help you, you know, either eliminate or delegate completely off your plate.
Awesome. And I understand that's our topic today, right? We're going to talk about increasing your revenue
It.
through delegating to these virtual assistants. Is that correct?
That is it. That's the core issue I want to talk to you guys about, and it's really it's protecting your time. And Tony, I think you do a pretty great job of protecting your time. I'd say the average person doesn't do it at all. You know, the average agent has really they're just kind of going from point A to point B to C. You know, they're just kind of chasing the day or chasing the
Mm-hmm.
tasks as they come up in front of them. But you really have to prioritize your time first and foremost.
Yeah, yeah. I learned that as my business grew,
Yeah.
and I still wasn't very good at delegating, but I had to learn how to start batching my time better because exactly what you said. I started finding out that my day was running me. I wasn't running my day.
Yep.
Right? Because I was so busy, I was more reactionary to whatever was happening, right? Inbound calls were coming in. I'm reacting to
Exactly.
them. I'm getting inbound emails. I'm reacting to those. I got this guy talking to me over here, and I'm reacting on all that instead of saying, no, all of you go away. This is your schedule of which I will deal with you on. And until
Right.
then, this is what I got to focus on. And once I started doing that, certainly managing my time got much better when I learned how to batch it and time things or in time chunks, et cetera. But the
Exactly.
art of finding great virtual assistants is still something I'm struggling and learning at. So I'm super
It's
excited to have
tough.
you on and kind of coach
Yeah.
us on learning, I guess, maybe what tasks we should be delegating, how
Yeah.
we should delegate them, I guess, and then how we measure them on the back end, I guess, as far as what's successful for us and not.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and it looks a little different for everybody. That's what makes it tough too, is like there might be a task that I could delegate that might be difficult for someone else to delegate. So, you know, you kind of have to it takes a lot of self-awareness, I think, to be a good delegator. And so I think that's kind of step one, you know,
Awesome.
is yeah, really self-awareness and figuring out, you know, where's my priority list here? Like what do I really have to do myself that someone else cannot do for me?
Cool. Well, you heard it there, guys. Listen up. Glenn's about to drop some serious knowledge for us on delegation. I want you to drop in the comments the word delegate. If you think you can get more out of your business and you want to learn how to delegate, drop it in the comments. Hit the word delegate. Drop some comments. Ask Glenn some questions as he goes through. And now, Mr. Shelton, well, the floor is yours. Take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Tony. So yeah, I wanted to kind of explain a little bit more about my story too as an agent. As I kind of kick things off here for you guys. And this is real, by the way. This is a real Christmas tree. I'm not. This isn't a Zoom background. I know a lot of people are loving those. Real Christmas present. So happy holidays, you guys. I hope you had a great AEP, great Q4 wrapping up. And yeah, drop a question below. I'd love to answer any questions that you guys have, either in the live stream or here afterwards. But to give you a little bit of information again about kind of how I got started as an agent. So I was in the retail sales space for a long time. I had a capped commission structure. So, the sales that I was making, there was only so much commission that I could generate. And essentially, if I did a really good job, they were like, "Hey, this is as much as we're going to pay you." So, you know, because I was in that environment, I started to look for, a playground where I didn't have a cap commission structure, where if I wanted to work 80 hours a week, I'm going to make as much money as possible on my sales for the 80 hours I put in. So that's ultimately what drove me into the insurance space, and I love it. I loved it then. I still love it today. I think it's a great opportunity. I think there's always an opportunity that is available in the insurance space, even if the landscape is constantly changing. Um, so that took me into an agency that wasn't too far from me that I got involved with, and it was a good start in the sense that I got some of those things that I mentioned earlier. I got contracts with insurance carriers. They gave me some of my first leads that I ever worked. And there was a tiny micro dose of training that they gave me at the start as well. So um, it took me. I was thinking about this yesterday. I think it's easy to come in and make money in the insurance industry, but I think it takes a while to master it. And it probably took me, I'd say, probably about a year before I really started to get my sea legs. And right about that 18-month to 2-year mark of selling insurance, um, that's when I decided, you know what, I can go independent. I can do this myself. I don't need to be under this hierarchy that I was with at the time. They were taking a ton of commission. Again, as I kind of mastered the space and understood the business better, I figured, okay, if I can just figure out the marketing aspect, um, then I can kind of go out on my own and I don't need to be a part of this agency anymore. So um, that was the road that led me to creating Hire Heroes and Lead Heroes, initially Lead Heroes, the call center model that we still use today. And what happened, I mentioned to Tony a minute ago, self-awareness, like that's where this all starts. So one of the first things I noticed when I did start to work completely independently and being self-aware and looking at my schedule, where's your time going each week? Okay. So like this is step one. Okay. Is where's your time going each week, each month, each day that you're working? And honestly, sometimes, if it's difficult, or sometimes you might think you're spending it a certain way, but then if you actually looked at like the data and you actually looked at the time in and out, at one point, I just because again out of kind of desperation, I had this little device. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it was this little Bluetooth device, and it had images on almost like a cube, and so you could kind of like flip the cube based on what task you're working on, and then it essentially like logged or tracked your hours associated with that task. And for a while, I was actually doing that because I wanted to be super specific with where my time is going. So doing, step one is kind of doing a full accounting of where your time's going. Like that is the key to driving your revenue higher, your hourly gross revenue. If you really want to increase that, you have to have a hard accounting of where your time's going right now. So, where was my time going at the time in 2015 before I started Lead Heroes? Almost half my work week was spent on the phone. I'm calling leads back, I'm setting appointments, I'm calling the carrier, I'm doing follow-up customer service calls to clients. So, looking at my calendar essentially and seeing, man, if I could eliminate this time and I could spend this half a week, this 20 hours, right? This half of an average work week, and invest that time somewhere else, I know I can make more money. I know that if I spent 20 hours a week more selling insurance policies, spent that time in the field, my output is going to go up significantly, right? I mean, if I'm spending 40 hours a week actually in the field selling, I just doubled my sales volume. So that's a significant amount of revenue for whoever you are, right? If your number one revenue generating activity is binding policies, right? Which that's what it is as an agent, that's how you make your money. Um, then you need to spend as much time as possible doing that. And spending time doing anything else, even though you could argue, well, Glenn, setting an appointment, or calling a client to save a policy or something like that, you could argue that that is a core revenue generating activity, maybe. But in reality, if writing that policy itself is your highest revenue generating activity, you want to do that as much as you possibly can over and over and over. So, you know, seeing that again, I'm at half my work week spending on the phone. I decided I really need to hire someone. I need someone to come in that I trust that can do, they can't necessarily be me, and that's fine. Like again, this is another part of delegation, guys, that's super important to understand. Like take this in right now is like you're not gonna find someone who can do the task or the job that you're doing. Like they're not gonna do it to your degree of um, efficiency, or maybe they're not going to say things exactly right. I mean, again, if you're calling to set an appointment as an insurance agent for an insurance agent, that's really easy to do that job, correctly and efficiently. I mean, when I was doing life insurance, I could kind of pre-sell that policy on the appointment set, and I get that. But I think what you're missing is again the scalability of your highest grossing revenue activity, right? You can't scale that out if you're spending all this time doing something else. So finding someone who can come in and do a task for you that is, it's comparable. They're getting the job done. It might not be to the same level of success or the same type of, um, you might not be getting as much from that same activity as if you were doing it yourself, but you just freed up your time, and your time is your most valuable asset. So being able to take your most valuable asset and invest it somewhere else, that's how you win. That's how if there's something that you guys could take away from this today, like that's it right there. Is your time is not scalable at all. You will never get any of your time back. We all have the same 8 hours a day, and if you can spend that time doing something else like your highest grossing revenue activity, like that is your actionable tip right there is protect your time. And another thing I want to mention to you guys is it's not about necessarily spending all of that time. Like when I mentioned freeing up 20 hours of my own work week, to be honest, some of that time was definitely reinvested with my family too. That's part of the reason why I got into this, right? Is like to have the flexibility of my schedule as a business owner, as an insurance agent. So protect your time viciously, and I still do this today. I don't. It's not even just understanding like that value, like to really, like when I think of time, like I'm literally feeling the paper on the dollar. Like that's how valuable it is. So like realizing that every minute, every hour of your day is gold, and how you choose to spend that, it has to just be immensely valuable when you spend your time. I mean, it is putting money into the machine. So I'll get off kind of my time soapbox there. I'm obsessed. But so again, moving forward, so I'm spending 20 hours a week on the phone. I hire someone to come in, and what I realize is that this person that I hired, and I tried hiring people all over the world. I tried hiring here stateside, tried Mexico, Jamaica, Pakistan, India. Ultimately, what I found is the Philippines. These people were incredible on the phone. And you'll find out today if you call any number of major corporations, it could be a major cell phone company, it could be a financial institution, like a major bank. You're most likely going to end up getting routed to the Philippines because, again, there's a lot of natural call center talent there. The culture, I've actually been to the Philippines multiple times since this first hire because it was so important to me to get to the source of this because I thoroughly enjoyed this first Filipino that I hired. So I brought them in to work 40 hours a week to replace the 20 hours a week that I was spending on the phone. And you're kind of looking at it too, like even if the quality is a little bit lower, they're going to invest 20 additional hours. So, they can kind of make up for maybe some of that missed quality of me doing this task with that additional time. And then I'm paying them and I'm freeing up my time to invest in selling full time. And that's when the light bulb moment happened, you guys. At the time when I did that, it was just for myself as an agent. And then I did it, and I said, "Oh wow!" Like a lot of people probably need help with this. Obviously, I have a lot of peers in the industry as an agent, and so at that point, when I started to get more of an output from that person that I first hired, I realized, maybe I need to see if any other agents need help with this because I didn't even need all that output that I was getting. The person was generating more leads and more appointments than I personally could handle. So I kind of started to network with some other agents and agencies at that time, and it kind of really grew from there. But to get back to again kind of the core topic of how can you personally increase your revenue per hour? You need to be self-aware. You need to know where your time's going. You need to create what is commonly referred to as SOPs, so standard operating procedures. I'll give you again a little insight at Hire Heroes or Lead Heroes. If I'm bringing someone in to take over a task, I've got to know how to do it. I've got to be able to write it up, how this task is going to get done. And then a lot of times there will be a little bit of like a video training similar to this that I'm going to pass along to my virtual assistant so they can watch that video without me. Again, I'm removing myself, removing my time. I have a PDF of SOPs, the standard operating procedures. Now, if it's an appointment setter that you just hired, maybe that SOP is really just the script, right? Maybe that script of what to say, rebuttals, maybe that's your SOP. Maybe you're doing something with a CRM. Maybe, again, there's a variety of tasks that a virtual assistant could take over for you. And then, once they can kind of train themselves, because you understand the task, you wrote the SOPs, you did a little training on it. They should be able to really train themselves based on that material. At scale, maybe you end up hiring a trainer, right? Like we have some full-time internal trainers that help us bring people on that are trained, ready to go. But now you've removed yourself from that task entirely, and they're able to replicate that task over and over and over again without you. And what I think most people don't realize is you really are the bottleneck. I still feel this way today, you guys. I have a staffing company essentially that I've created, and there's still times like just last week where I'm sitting there and I'm having this existential crisis almost, and I'm asking myself, I'm like, am I still bottlenecking my company? Are there tasks that I shouldn't be doing? So this isn't another thing to kind of keep in mind is like this isn't something that goes away. It's not like you just do it once and it's like, okay, I delegated once. I'm not doing my appointments anymore. I'm done. This is a constant cycle that you have to continuously be auditing your own time. And you have to be constantly checking in. Like, am I spending my most valuable asset, my time? Am I spending this correctly? Am I investing this and getting the highest ROI possible? Um, and so, maybe you have like a quarterly check-in. I think it gets easier if you kind of have really clean accounting, and again, you can kind of see where's my money coming from, and then you can kind of have that self-awareness. So, I don't want to go too long here, you guys, but one kind of analogy I'll use to wrap things up today for this Tuesday training. A doctor's office, right? So let's all think about, we've all been to the doctor before. Let's all think about what that experience is like, okay? Because the doctor is the highest grossing revenue per hour in the entire office. There's nobody else in that office that's getting a higher grossing revenue per hour. So they have to protect their time viciously, right? They've gone to medical school 8+ years. Nobody else can do what they do, so they have to viciously protect their time. As a business owner, as an insurance agent, you should be operating your business or your agency the exact same way. Nobody can do what you can do in your business. You have to viciously protect your time. Maybe you didn't go to school for 8 years, but it doesn't matter. You still have the experience. You're the licensed agent. So, what is a doctor doing? Well, someone else is handling all the customer service. So there's a receptionist, they're answering the phone, they're managing the calendar. Um, you know, if people need to reschedule, or maybe they saw an ad and they're calling in, like, a doctor never answers their own phone, and you should get to the point where you really shouldn't ever answer your own phone either. If you call Lead Heroes, I'm not answering that phone. I've got someone who does that, right? I'm not saying I won't get on the phone with you, but it's a filtered process. It has to be a scheduled appointment that fits into my calendar, and I have someone who's going to kind of check and figure out, like, okay, what is this exactly that you're doing? Like, what do you need help with? So you need to really replicate that at some point. Maybe not right away, right? If you're a brand new agent and you don't have the resources, that's totally fine. Keep figuring it out, keep generating policies, and then with time you can get into some of this stuff. So I don't want to stress anybody out if you're a brand new agent, but um, going back to the doctor's office. Okay, you're getting checked in, right? You show up to the office, you talk to the receptionist, you're getting checked in. You go behind the desk, and now you're in the back. Well, you're being worked with a nurse, right? This is essentially one of the highest paid employees of the doctor. They're doing the pre-sales, right? She's taking your vitals. She's checking you in. She's putting you in the room. She might even be dry running the application, right? Like, oh, okay, well, here's some of the questions that might come up. And you can have this same type of person again inside your agency. You can have someone who can really kind of be almost your concierge of sales. This could be an executive assistant. If you're a call center owner, you might have somebody who kind of essentially it could be a licensed agent even, right? That's doing this process. So there's so much that can be outsourced. I think a lot of people have a hard time seeing it, but I love the doctor's office as a great analogy to help give you perspective and think about how does this line up with your business. And then kind of appointment setting. Sometimes with that customer service, that front desk position, they might do the appointment setting, they might do some of the marketing, but again, in a true doctor's office that's operating independently, they're going to have someone who's doing the appointment setting, who's doing the marketing, right? So they have almost like this customer service person, someone who's helping with the sales, or maybe they're even doing the sales, right? If it's an LOA agent underneath you, and then you have like a marketer or an appointment setter, and the doctor is again, they've delegated all these tasks. They're exclusively handling the highest revenue generating time activity. That's seeing the patients, seeing the people, and prescribing the solutions. And you're no different as an agent. You're not at all. You can do the same exact model. You can have someone who does customer service for you so you don't have to, handle that front desk. You can have someone who helps you with sales, whether that's kind of more of an assistant role or an LOA agent or a downline agent. And then you can also have a marketer. You hire a company like Lead Heroes or Hire Heroes who can come in and help you, or maybe it's an independent marketer that you're bringing in. And then again, now you've really protected your time. So, I think that's really the core of it, you guys. Tony, I really appreciate you bringing me on and allowing me some time to really get into this. I love this stuff. I love helping agents and agency owners protect their time, get their time back.
Yeah, good stuff, brother.
Yeah.
Man, if you guys have comments, I'm going to keep Glenn on for a bit. If you guys have any questions or comments,
Let me
please
know.
drop them in there. I've got a few for him right now. There's a few comments. And the first thing, and I want to see if you can help me understand why this is, but I know that it's incredibly difficult for just about any human to be incredibly honest with themselves about how they spend their time.
Right.
Right.
It's really, really hard.
It's incredibly difficult because you lie to yourself all the
You lie
time,
to
just like you said.
you play
You're
your
like, oh
brain will
no,
play tricks on.
a revenue generator. Not really. So what do you think it is that holds us back from being brutally honest in that discovery?
I mean, so like I'll give you an example of something I was doing for a long time at Lead Heroes, and it took I had to like get to a breaking point to even see it. So I was waking up at like 3 in the morning to check on the leads before they were being sent out. So it was like yesterday's production. After everything got batched, I was waking up in the middle of the night to check the production before it went out. And it got to the point where I was just driving myself. I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I the one doing this? Like, this is insane. Like, surely someone can do it. So you almost have to get to that breaking point to have that self discovery of what you're doing with your time, because it's really easy for time to be wasted and disappear. I mean, like our cell phones, these things are like the ultimate time waste. I can sit down anywhere and make an hour disappear, right? So I think there's a lot of distractions. There's a lot of lying to yourself. There's a lack of accountability. If you're an independent agent, if you're a business owner and you don't have someone, you don't have a boss right behind you, it's really easy to just procrastinate, I'm going to go play Clash of Clans for, the next 2 hours when I could be setting appointments or selling insurance, So there's a lot of brutal honesty. It's good to have an accountability partner. It's good to track your time, like whatever you can do to try to stay on top of yourself.
Understood. We had a quick question come in. What's the title of your book again?
Yes, it is How to Qualify, Present, and Sell Final Expense and Medicare Supplements to Seniors. It is on Amazon. You can just search my name as well. It might be easier, just Glen Shelton, and it will pop right up.
Yeah, we're going to get the link in this thread once we get off on the video. I also wanted to ask you what, when it comes to like an agent sitting there, right? They're like, okay, I'd like to delegate, I'd like to increase my revenue, but and maybe it's not appointment setting yet, or how do they decide what is the first task that they need to get off their shoulders? Like, is there a certain way to examine their time and they go, oh, that's definitely the first thing that's got to go?
I mean, it's really quantity. It's kind of, like, again, looking at your phone, you can I can go into the settings and I can look at like my battery, and it'll be like, you used 80% of your battery on Facebook this week, right? Like, you really need to be able to do the same thing with your time. Like, it really starts with the quantity. Where are you spending most of your time that isn't a part of your core highest revenue generating activity? And most of the time it is the phone, right? And I think that's really why Lead Heroes became what it was, again, from my own personal experience. But there's also a huge variety of other tasks that you might be spending time on. There's so much software now today. A lot of that can be super time intensive. Some of these CRMs can use a lot of your time. You can outsource a lot of that work. There could be a lot of data entry. It's wild, like the stuff that I've gotten into with agents, where it's like you're doing like the lowest of the low. Like, this is something that the lowest revenue generating. Like, you couldn't pick a less revenue generating activity like data entry. Where most of it can be automated, the stuff that can be outsourced. Like it's wild. So, start with quantity though, for sure. Like, where are you spending most of your time? But there's going to be some other stuff where, like, it might not seem like a lot. You're like, oh, I'm only spending an hour a week doing this. Okay, but that's still 50 hours a year. That's an entire work week per year. So you have to really look at it from all perspectives.
Are you a big fan of Tim Ferriss's book 4 Hour Work Week? Have you read that
That's
one? I would
that
assume you
is
have.
Yes, yeah. That was the book that started all of this.
Okay.
I'm that was the book. um before I even became an agent, when I was in retail sales still, I read that book, and that was an aha moment for me, a light bulb moment. And he's talking about, he hired a couple of virtual assistants in India. This was back in like 2006 for him, or
Hmm.
2003. um and he was just like, holy shit, this is everything, like being able to outsource and have quality work done. And at the time, I always envisioned, and maybe some of you can kind of feel the same way, but I always envisioned the corporate structure of America, right? You're in a 100-story building, you're CEO, you're at the top, you've got all these people under. It's like you can have a couple of virtual assistants around the world, and it's just you, and you can be super successful. Like, you don't have to have this traditional corporate structure that you see in America to achieve a huge level of success. And that was the point that I really got from the 4-hour work week.
Absolutely. I love the doctor's analogy that you brought up
Yeah.
for a couple of reasons. One, especially the way you described it, that is a doctor that's running a business, right?
Yes.
Because I'll be honest, if I ever called a doctor to set an appointment and that dude answers the phone, I'm calling
Yeah.
a different
Yeah.
doctor.
That's a scary situation.
It's not who I'm calling. Uh, but a lot of agents don't approach this like a business. They're like, cool, I'm an insurance agent. I get to work for myself. And that's kind of
Here's my
it. They
Hey,
stop
Tony.
there.
Hey, Tony, here's my cell phone number. This is my personal number. You can call me anytime. I know I just wrote you accidental death policy that commissioned me 50 total dollars, and here's my personal number. Call me on the weekends. I'll answer. Like, it's the opposite, right? Most
Right.
of these agents are doing the opposite.
Yeah. They're not approaching it like a business. And
Right.
then you talked about having like the intake assistant,
Yes.
right? And I think where some agents accidentally fail is because they don't understand how much a non-licensed
Yes.
person can actually talk about and do,
Yes.
right? Like, and especially, and I know this is very true in the Medicare space, um, but to be very clear, a non-licensed person can do everything except talk about rates, benefits, quotes, and write an app.
Yep.
I can have a VA train the person on the basics of Medicare if I want to. That doesn't have to be
100%.
a licensed person. The licensed person just needs to talk about rates, benefits, actually run a quote and take an app, and that's it. So I think a lot of agents fall short there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think, and again, that was my own personal perspective at the time as well as an agent. I assumed I like calling. Here's another big one: is calling an insurance carrier. A lot of people, a lot of agents think I'm the agent. I have to call the carrier.
Mhm.
Not at all. Not at all. And again, that was a big time suck for me. Um, like going another big one, going through any sort of like disqualifications, right? There's a lot of things potentially that could disqualify someone from getting it approved for an application. You don't have to be an agent to go through a disqualification list,
Yeah,
you know?
that's absolutely correct as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. Man, well, this has been a fantastic episode. We should have delegated it out to make it more efficient because I got shit to do. But I really appreciate you coming on, man. It's always a pleasure to get to
Yeah,
chat with you and hang out. I love the Christmas tree
absolutely.
setup you got going on there.
Thanks, man.
You got a great Christmas plan with you and the fam?
Yeah, just hanging around. I mean, I'd like to make it out to the slopes. We'll see.
Okay.
I've got Mount Hood just a couple hours from me, so I'd love to make it out to the slopes. I don't know if we'll make it out before the New Year's, but
Snowboard
yeah,
or ski?
snowboard, ski.
Snowboard.
I'll do either.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right on.
multi-talented. Don't pigeonhole me, Tony.
Man, I assume I'm going to see you in Utah again early next
Yes.
year, correct? At the six-figure Medicare Agent Summit.
Yes. There's
Awesome.
potentially some other events, but yes, definitely will be at the summit 2023, you guys. It's going to be a great event. Highly recommend.
Awesome. Now, I know you're super active on Facebook. Where else can some of our audience find you if they want to look you up?
Yeah, so if you go to leadheroes.com, leadheroes.com, you can see a ton of information, a lot of what I talked about today. You can also schedule a call with me directly if you'd like. Feel free to hit me up. I'm a moderator in Six Figure Medicare Agent Facebook group. Like Tony said, I'm also in a lot of the syndicate groups. Also, shout out to the gamers out there. I'm also in the syndicate gaming, so we'll have to maybe over Christmas break, you guys. We'll have to jump into some games as well.
I only have my virtual agents game for me. That way I can do revenue
I
producing stuff.
outsource all my wins to someone else. I don't waste my time on
Right on.
that.
Well, man, thank you again for coming. It's been a
Yeah,
pleasure. Hey, guys, thanks y'all for tuning
thanks,
in.
Tony.
It's another fantastic Tuesday training. Like I've said before, we're here every Tuesday, 9 a.m., spotlighting some of the industry experts. Glen Shelton, Lead Heroes, Hire Heroes. He's wrote a book. We're going to get his book link in there. If you need some help delegating your business, you want to make a little more cheese, you want to free up your time so that you can spend more time wrapping gifts and hanging out with your family, maybe give the guy a call and he can help you out. So thanks again for tuning in. We'll be here next week. We got Emily Trevino coming on. She's going to talk about your business structure, which is going to probably feed right off of this. So thanks again, guys. We'll see y'all next week for Tuesday training, 9 a.m.